Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Garrett Horner. This is stage 13 of the Giro d'Italia 2025. Today's stage at 180 kilometers with 3 categorized climbs. All 3 of them are category 4, so they don't look very difficult. But let's forget the first one. Let's focus in with 60 kilometers to go and look at the stage there. We really have about 5 climbs there. The first one coming about 57 kilometers to go. That one looks like basically a category 4 climb. The second one they rate as a category 4 in today's stage. But at 6.6% and 5 kilometers long, I would say that's easily a category 3. And it could get interesting even if you wanted to rate it as a category 2. We're late here, starting into the second week of the Giro. And then after that, we start going into the finishing climb that the riders are going to get to see not once, but 2 times. That last climb, 1.1 kilometer long, and we're talking about 7.5% with some super steep sections over 10%. So the finish of today's stage is questionable whether or not if a pure sprinter can do it. But when we start looking at Mads Pedersen, when we start looking at Wout van Aert, whose form has started to come up and up here at the Giro d'Italia. Remember, he won stage 9, Strade Bianche, helped his teammate win yesterday, stage 12, with Olaf Koy taking the victory after a marvelous 1 kilometer lead out from Wout van Aert. So you got to start questioning whether Visma bikes, Wout van Aert can get over 1.1 kilometer and go up to the summit and have a shot at winning today's stage 2. So we start looking at those questions, and Caden Groves, that sprinter usually is pretty good on a stick of a climb to the finish, but he's been a little bit off and not at the top of his climbing form here at the Giro d'Italia in 2025. So when we start looking after that first passage of the finish line, well, we have the Red Bull Sprint competition at 10 kilometers to go. There's time bonuses there of 6, 4, and 2 seconds, and we know Del Toro's been looking fantastic in the sprint finishes, and we know Primoz Roglic, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, Slovenian, he's always been backing off the throttle and just carefully following the wheels at every bonification sprint that we've had here at the Giro d'Italia in 2025. So does Primoz Roglic really have good form? Is he trying to save the legs? Is he waiting for the third week here at the Giro d'Italia? Is he waiting for the first week of the Tour de France? Tons of questions. For sure, he's got to come on good at the third week of the Giro here if he wants to win. And for sure, you know he's thinking about July too. So could be obvious reasons why Primoz Roglic is saving his legs at the time bonuses. So when the stage comes on, and when we go over, if I take you back to the finishing stage, of course, with 10 kilometers to go, that's the Red Bull Sprint competition, as I explained. Then they'll come down in the valley, and then they go up the finishing climb one more time to give us 5 climbs at the finish of the last 57 kilometers of today's stage. So when the cameras come on, we see 9 riders going up the road. They're going to hold about a 2-minute gap to peloton behind Visma bike, Lidl Trek, and Q36.5. Q36.5, Tom Pidcock's team, they like the finish of today's stage 2 at 1.1 kilometers and 7.5%. So that's why they're riding the front with those 3 teams. Gaps always held at about 2 minutes. Then we come into the sprint line competitions in the middle of the flat section of today's stage, and we see the sprint competitions won by AG2R Dries de Bont. When we look at the peloton, no one's even sprinting back there. Mads Pedersen's not interested because there's 9 guys up the road, so there's no points really available here. So with that in mind, we just see the peloton setting tempo. We come into the last of the climbs here under 57 kilometers to go. 5 of them, as I've already described. When we come into the first one here, we see the peloton gets a little bit nervous as they're coming into it. They're curb to curb. UAE team members, of course, have gotten their guy up to the front wearing the pink jersey, Del Toro. As the battle comes into this climb, we're going to see Ineos start hopping on the front. Once Ineos gets on the front, they start blowing things up. When we go up to the 9 riders up there, we see Lorenzo Germani from FDJ throwing his attack. He's going solo because the gap is under a minute right now at about 56 seconds. Ineos are blowing things up back there, guys. They're putting on a show. I don't mind it at this moment because they're making the racing hard. But at this moment, it's not what's important. It's what's important happens later. So as Ineos are drilling it on the front, like I said, I'm okay with this. They're making the race hard. It's no problem. As they're drilling it, going over the first bump here, they go down the first non-categorized climb. And as they go through the valley, we see the peloton split up. I'll call it about 30, 35 guys in this first group, and Primoz Roglic made it. Del Toro's in this front group, and we see the next split behind chasing. That's Ayuso, UAE team members. That's closing up the gap there, and we see the peloton has started to explode when they came down the descent of the first climb with 5 climbs to go. Now they got 4 more in front of them, but they're in the valley. We go up and look at the breakaway guys that are chasing Germani as they're coming through the town, and you see how technical it is. And remember, I just pointed out that the peloton's blowing up in the back, coming down the descent from the pace from Ineos. So when I'm showing you these corners, it's not to show you what the breakaway is doing, it's to show you what the peloton's going to have to do to come through and start this next category climb. As we look at the group up in front, making the left turns, the right turns, the switchbacks, all that kind of stuff as they start to climb proper, they're only holding a few second gap on the Ineos train behind. Ineos have got the peloton hurting at this moment as single file is blowing up all over the place. And we start looking at the front of the group here of the peloton. We got about 10 guys up here. Ineos are driving on the front. They have 2 guys, and the Egan Bernal sit in second position. His other main general classification favorite, 10th on the GC, our Ensman, is at the back of this group right now while Ineos are drilling it on the front. Then you see our Ensman blow. As he blows, that means there's only Egan Bernal and his teammate in front of him. Now, what are you going to do at this moment if you're Egan Bernal and you got only one teammate left in front of you, but you look on your wheel and there's a host of GC favorites? Now, Brandon McNulty's there, Del Toro's there, Carapaz is there, Derek G's there, Tom Pidcock's there, Primoz Roglic is there. We're missing Ayuso, but still UAE team members are represented with Brandon McNulty and Del Toro. So at this moment, once we see the Ineos rider blow, Egan Bernal's got a choice to make. If you're going to drill your team the whole time coming up the first climb, now you're on the second climb here and we only have 4 climbs left. This one's a stick at 5 kilometers and talking about 6.6%. Egan Bernal needs to throw an attack right now. Otherwise, what were you doing up here? You guys are all knuckleheads if Egan Bernal doesn't throw an attack. Instead, he moves over to the left side of the road and just starts looking back at all the GC favorites here. Well, Del Toro's not going to want to do anything because you got Primoz Roglic here, and Ayuso is in the second group. Now, when we start looking at that second group back there, we're going to see it's post-picnic on the front. These guys are a little bit of knuckleheads too, but okay, they got gapped off. They're riding back on. They have nobody on the general classification in the top 10. So at this moment, they're a bit of knuckleheads because when you look behind them, Bahrain Victorious is behind them. And of course, Ayuso's back there. So UAE team members would have to do something to get Ayuso back up here. And Bahrain Victorious, those guys will ride for anything for sure because they have Tiberi, and Tiberi and Bahrain Victorious ride for anything since last year's Giro d'Italia. So for sure, if you're picnic, you don't need to be on the front, but they're on the front anyways. With the attack of Derek G and Tom Pidcock, they go up there, and they realize, well, I don't want to be up here. I don't want to be up here at all. Remember, there's still Lorenzo Germani up the front for FDJ, but all the other breakaway riders got wrapped up from the speed of Ineos going up the climbs. So now when you see Tom Pidcock and Derek G, they just sit up and start drinking and eating. We see them, one's got a bottle in their mouth, one's starting to eat. So why'd they attack? I don't know, but they changed their mind. They backed off the throttle, decided this isn't the time to do it when we still got about 46 kilometers, 47 kilometers to go right now on the stage. Then we see our Ensman come to the front of that elite group of about 10 riders. He comes to the front, you see his cheeks just blow up a little bit because he's already hurt and he's at the max. Now, if he came to the front and the pace slowed and he started attacking, I would like the move, the tactics that Ineos have employed going up over the first climb with 5 climbs to go here, 57 kilometers to go. I would have liked him drilling. But now our Ensman's going to set tempo. What's he setting tempo for? He's setting tempo soft enough that they're going to get brought back by the picnic train back there. Now you got all of the favorite GC riders here. In fact, when we start looking further back, we'll see Caden Groves was doing some suffering. We'll see Wout van Aert was doing some suffering. He's off the back too. We see Mads Pedersen got off the back too. Now, the tempo starts being taken over from UAE team members. They're setting some casual tempo at the front, and you know that because the group in the back is starting to get bigger as we see Mads Pedersen flying into the picture on that false little step right here as we're coming into about 1K to go on this climb. Once Mads closes up to the back of his teammate, we see Verona there take him to the back of the peloton, and then we start seeing the other groups because we got about 50 guys up in the front, another 10 guys chasing, and probably we'll call another 30 riders back there chasing. That has the big guy, Wout van Aert from Visma Lease Bike. Well, those guys are still back there chasing. We're going to see the next attack up at the front. This attack's going to come from Scaroni. As Scaroni throws an attack for Astana, he's going up the road, and he's going to bridge up quickly because the gap was under 10 seconds up to Germani from FDJ. As he bridges up, those two are going to start going up the road, and they're going to topple over the top of the KOM here when we see Scaroni getting maximum points. Behind, as those two were going up the road, Wout van Aert closes the gap. So now we got most of the peloton back in check right here, and everything's still together. We're coming up to the top of the KOM with Bahrain Victorious on the front of the peloton and the 2 riders dropping down the descent. We see Scaroni can't descend to save his life. up front. Germani ends up having to wait for him, but they wasted about 4 kilometers going down the descent because Scaroni can't go down a descent. Guys, if you're going to wait for a guy who can't descend, don't even bother riding the front because you got Germani riding the front, you got Scaroni riding the front. So if you're Germani and you're going to wait for Scaroni back here, why sit in the wind? Just go back and let Scaroni pull the whole descent. Eventually they come back together, but they're only holding about a 6-second gap. Bahrain victorious drove the descent. I'm okay with this because they want to just keep Tibieri out of any trouble on the technical descent. So they get down to the bottom and then everything slows up a little bit as we see Scaroni doesn't want to do any work with Germani. So Germani slowed up, going down the whole descent. Scaroni comes back on. Now Scaroni doesn't want to do any work because the peloton's hot on their heels, and he's going, focusing or signaling up there to Germani that, hey, we got the guys right behind us. We don't do any work. But Germani doesn't want to give up. He's been in the break all day long, so he keeps driving. And then finally Scaroni goes, oh, the gap's coming back up, so I'll start pulling. So those guys start extending the gap, and it starts going up and up and up. Then we start looking behind, and we see it's Lidl-Trek, Q36, and Alpecin de Koenig setting some tempo back there as the time up to the 2 riders, the breakaway guys here. One's been in the break all day long. Scaroni just got there, so 2 guys up there extend out to about a 50-second gap. Now we're coming into this valley here with just about 22 kilometers to go. We see Lidl-Trek's Dan Uhl's on the front when we're coming through the left turns to start the final climb that will finish up today's race. But this is the first passage, not the final passage. So when they go through the left, Dan Uhl's on the front. The 2 riders are up the road. Scaroni's going to go over the finish line here from front with just a little bit of gap on Germani because he doesn't want to wait going up the climb either. But those 2 will come back together. We'll go back and look at the peloton crossing the finish line. I'll call it about 35, 45-second gap. And it's going curb to curb. And then UAE team members are going to get on the front after they pass the finish line, dropping back down the descent. With UAE team members on the front, this tells us that with the Red Bull sprint competition coming up with about 10 kilometers to go, UAE team members are trying to get Del Toro and Ayuso some time bonuses because they don't see the possibility of attacking Primoz Roglic on today's stage 13, but they do see that they can get some time in time bonuses. So UAE team members are drilling it on the front. We start the second to go climb, the penultimate climb, as we see the 2 riders in front, and then Scaroni's dropping the FDJ rider there, Germani. As he's dropping them, Del Toro's back there, and he's got his last lead-out guy pulling off to the side of the road, and then Del Toro throws in a vicious acceleration as they're nearing the Red Bull sprint competition. With Del Toro's speed, he accelerates, and we know Primoz Roglic isn't interested because we never saw Primoz Roglic fight for it, but we do know that Ayuso is following the wheel of Del Toro. Now they're coming straight up to Scaroni, but Scaroni's still got enough of a gap to cross the line first. And we see Del Toro look back over his shoulder and see Ayuso there. And then Del Toro's going to back off the throttle. And he's going to let Ayuso get second place for 4-second bonuses. Del Toro's going to get third place for 2-second bonuses. Now, this is questionable. This is a fantastic teammate in Del Toro. I do not question Del Toro's teammate in terms of how loyal he is to the UAE team members because he is very loyal. And the 2 seasons that I've seen him racing, Del Toro has done everything for his team that he possibly can, and he is a loyal teammate, no doubt about it. But when you pull over to the side and you let Ayuso come through, you have to remember, everybody sitting on the Chesterfield at this moment, Ayuso has some stitches in his knee from crashing on stage 9 of Strade Bianche. Those stitches, he says in interviews that they have been bothering him, and his knee's been incredibly painful. So when you're giving up 2 seconds to Primoz Roglic, that's in the back of the peloton back there, who cruised across this line, you've got to wonder right now, is it wise to give it to Ayuso, or is it better to give it to Del Toro if you're UAE team members? I can't answer that question because I'm not his doctor. I don't look at his knee. So at this moment, they must believe that it's wiser that Ayuso starts grabbing some time bonuses, or Del Toro just doesn't want to mess up the chemistry right now with his teammate here at UAE team members. Either way, UAE team members go over the top and they grab some time bonuses on Primoz Roglic. Now, we drop down the descent as everything's been wrapped up because Scaroni got pulled back just at that Red Bull sprint competition just after the line. So when they're dropping down the descent with 9 kilometers to go, we see Romain Bardet throw an attack. The picnic riders dropping down the descent, and then we see just behind him, Vasek throws an attack, and he bridges up to Romain Bardet. As he bridges up, UAE team members are setting some tempo back there. The 2 riders are getting together at the front, and you got to believe if Vasek's at the front, you better take this serious if you want a shot at winning today's stage. And I believe UAE team members are thinking time bonuses, time bonuses, time bonus. Easier to grab time bonuses on Primoz Roglic that doesn't want to sprint than it is to try to drop Bora Hansgrohe rider Primoz Roglic. So UAE team members are holding it together just till they get to the bottom. Then we see Visma bike, Alpecin de Koenig get on the front. Now remember, Lidl-Trek didn't get on the front because Vašek's in the front. If I back the film up down the descent, it was his teammate Ciccone that was slowing things down through the corners. So that's why we don't see Lidl-Trek on the front, but we do see Visma bike for Wout van Aert, Alpecin de Koenig's on the front for Caden Groves. And if I back the film up, Caden Groves was getting dropped, as I told you, when we went up the first category climb that was with 4 climbs to go. He got dropped, he got back on. We saw him go up the first passage here of the finish. He was on the back of the group struggling big time, but still managed to get himself back to the front. So Alpecin de Koenig's drilling on the front with Visma bike, and the 2 riders in front are holding a 17-second gap. Now that gap starts coming back down once we start getting under 4 kilometers to go, because Romain Bardet will not take a pull with Vašek. The Lidl-Trek rider we know is incredibly strong on the finishes, and he's an explosive rider. So Bardet knows he better start sitting on, but sitting on from 4 kilometers to go, that's a long time to sit on. You still got to hold off 2 teams back there chasing, and Visma bike's throwing everything into it, and Alpecin de Koenig is too, and the gap starts coming down to about 12, 13 seconds. Now, as that's happening, Visma bike's drilling on the front. They're starting to lose some guys, but they got Wout van Aert in the good position as he's at the front. Mads Pedersen's just a little bit back. Egan Bernal's in good position. Del Toro's in good position. Roglic is in good position. And then we start seeing Visma bikes start to blow up as we start getting under 2 kilometers to go, 1.5. And then we got Alpecin de Koenig on the front with 3 riders up there. As we see Van den Bosch go into the next left turn at 1.3, he blows. Quinten Hermans jumps on the front. As Quinten Hermans jumps on the front going between these 2 climbs at 1.3 and 1.1 kilometer to go, we're going to look back, and it's Edward Plankert that's coming from the left side. He's going to come up to the front for Alpecin de Koenig. He's going to slot in the second wheel, Caden Groves third. And, of course, Quinten Hermans on the front drilling it. Gap's coming down to about 10 seconds, 8 seconds to the 2 riders up front. They come through the 1.1 kilometer left turn to go. That means the last climb starting here on stage 13, 7.7%. It's a stick, and we're talking over 10% sections all the way up to the finish. It's going to have some bends and some zigzags. It's going to be a nasty climb to the finish. But Alpecin de Koenig's, Quinten Hermans drilling down the front, and then he's going to start to blow. As he's starting to blow, we look up at the front. Bardet's starting to tighten his shoes up. He's getting interested, but the peloton's hot on their heels for sure. And Ed Plankert's driving it on the front with about 550, 600 meters to go as we're coming into the right bend. As Ed Plankert's coming up to the group of 2 riders up there, we know right now Vašek's not going to win stage 13 of the Giro because Edward Plankert's starting to pull him back, but Caden Groves is starting to fall off. Caden Groves is drifting. Edward Plankert's wrapping up the 2 riders with 500 meters to go. And then Edward Plankert doesn't back off the throttle. Okay, he had to do some force coming up this climb, but once you get into 500 meters to go, or better yet at 6, when you know for sure you're coming back to Bardet and Vašek, Edward Plankert, don't be a knucklehead, back the throttle off, because Caden Groves has been suffering on this stage 13. But instead, Edward Plankert's still drilling. We look on his wheel. That's the pink race leader's jersey, Del Toro right there. Behind him, Wout van Aert, Mads Pedersen's there, Egan Bernal's there, O. Lewis is there from Movistar and sitting in fantastic position, and sometimes him and Egan Bernal are side by side. We go further back there, we look at Primoz Roglic, he's sitting in about 12th position. Ayuso's in and around the picture and slightly ahead of Primoz Roglic. If I'm calling this position right, he will be ahead of him soon if he's not at this moment. But we're coming up to the zigzag section with about 425 meters to go. Edward Plankert is drilling it on the front. Caden Groves is hurting. You got to back the throttle off. Edward, you're leading out Del Toro, Wout van Aert, Mads Pedersen. Now, don't even let me forget Egan Bernal, who's slotted up in good position as they're coming through the zigzag. Once they come out with about 300 meters to go, Edward Plankert's still on the front. The guy's got some fantastic legs, but there's no way he's going to win. You know for sure Alpecin de Koenig have no shot at winning because Caden Groves is dropping even further back. Now, we come into about 225 meters to go. Mads Pedersen throws in an acceleration from 4th position. Jumps over the right side. Comes quickly past Wout van Aert. Comes quickly past Del Toro. He's up to the front side there, right side of Edward Plankert, who's still leading out the race right now. Then Edward Plankert blows us. Mads Pedersen's taking the front of the peloton. And Wout van Aert slotted in the 2nd. Del Toro slotting in the 3rd. We go back and look at the GC favorites behind these 3 leaders. Egan Bernal starts blowing. We look at the same time when Egan Bernal's blowing, Ayuso's blowing back there and he's starting to drift. He was in front of Primoz Roglic that was sitting about 12th, and Ayuso's starting to drift looking backwards because he knows his legs are starting to blow. We're coming into the last 200 meters to go. We're at about 150 right now. Once we go back up front at 125, Del Toro's legs blow. We see his head drop, and the gap opens up to Wout van Aert. But Wout van Aert, the big guy, Visma bike, still locked on the Mads Pedersen wheel from Lidl Trek. Del Toro's drifting. Egan Bernal's drifting. Or Lewis has drifted back there and opened up the gap. Del Toro can gain some time on Primoz Roglic and all the other GC favorites if he doesn't blow all the way yet, but he's still holding the gap between the two riders in front and all the GC guys behind him. We come into 40 meters to go. Wout van Aert, the big guy from Visma bike, throws in his acceleration as the road steps back up to the finish line. With this acceleration, he comes up to the back wheel. He's solid front wheel, even with the back wheel or the cranks there of Mads Pedersen, if I describe it more precisely. As the two get this close to each other, Mads Pedersen knows at this moment with one more little acceleration, he can win stage 13. He accelerates again, and Wout van Aert's got no more acceleration left as Mads Pedersen crosses the line so exhausted, the most he can get is his little hand up, his right hand up to celebrate a stage 4th victory win here at the Giro d'Italia for Mads Pedersen, the 5th for Lidl Trek. The big guy, Wout van Aert, crosses the line 2nd. Then we look at a 2-second gap back there. Del Toro still kept on the pedals, rode it all the way in the finish to round out the podium for 3rd and to grab a 4-second time bonus on Primoz Roglic. We'll look at Primoz Roglic, though. He comes across the line 6th. Now remember, I told you guys many times he was 12th coming up this hill. So as Ayuso started to blow, as Egan Bernal started to blow, Primoz Roglic did not start to blow and rode a steady pace all the way up to the finish to go top 6 here on stage 13, but gained no time. So when we start looking at the general classification, Del Toro gained about 9 seconds in bonuses and the gap at the finish of a few seconds there on Primoz Roglic. So he opened up a little window of opportunity on his own. Wasn't a big one. You couldn't close the window back there on Primoz Roglic. And Roglic looks like he's still saving his legs. Does he have good form? Does he not? I don't know. But right now, the Giro d'Italia has been fantastic for 13 stages at the 25 Tour. So we got more to like and subscribe because tomorrow looks like almost about the same kind of scenario stage as we saw in today's stage 13. So I still think we see Visma bike, we see Lidl Trek, Q36.5. Have they learned their lesson? Are they going to ride the front tomorrow? I don't know, but Alpecin de Koenig might because the climb tomorrow is a little bit softer and they go over it and drop down and then it's flat into the finish. So we should see sprinter teams trying to control the race again for tomorrow's stage 14. So like and subscribe, and you know I'm going to call it for you for the butterfly effect. See you guys on the next video real soon.